The movie opens in a room where we see some boys and a few men. One of the men is using an electric clipper to cut the boy's hair. One of the boys has a tattoo of 3 dots on his foot. Later, we see a man picking up a document of Noel Marin from a storage space. He takes a sealed envelope from inside and returns to the office, where a man and woman are waiting. The envelope contains Nal's will. The lawyer John LaBelle tells the children that their mother's will has something that he didn't want her to do, but he couldn't refuse. Nal wanted her twins to share her assets, money, and furniture. She also wanted to be buried naked without any coffin prayers, tombstone or epitaph. This doesn't sit well with her children. Jan continues reading the will and says that Jean, the daughter, needs to find her father and give him the letter that Noel left for him and Simon. The son also gets an envelope containing a letter for their brother. There are still more instructions in the will that John Leal continues to read. The lawyer explains that the family could only bury their mother according to her wishes if they followed the instructions in the letters. This meant that they had to find the recipients of the letters and give them to them before they could traditionally bury their mother. The family was confused and angry, but the lawyer told them that he couldn't change the instructions because they were in the mother's will. He gave them some documents and told them to think about everything before making any decisions outside. Simon promises Jean that he will talk to Liebel to find a way to give their mother a proper burial. Simon will take care of Jean, who feels guilty for not being there when their mother had an accident, even though she denies it when Simon asks. One day, Jan is introduced to the class as the professor's assistant and takes over the lecture. After class, the professor tells Jean that she has the potential to become a real mathematician because her instincts are always right. He advises her to find out the truth about her family's history, or her spirit will never be at peace. Jean tells him about her father, who died in the war, but the professor encourages her to start with something she knows and gives her the contact of a trustworthy old friend who teaches at the university in Dares. Back at home, Jean finds a picture of her mother with an Arabic inscription written on it and remembers a time when she saw her mother staring into space while Jean was swimming in the pool. Simon finds their mother in a hospital room, and the doctor asks Jean if their mother suffers from migraines or memory loss now. Simon, Jean and Noel are in the hospital room together. We follow Noel's story as she travels back in time to a rocky terrain where she meets a man named Wahab. They run together and encounter Noah's brother Nicholas, who insults Wahab by telling him to go back to his country. As they try to escape, Nicholas points a gun at Wahab and kills him. As he is about to kill Noel, he is stopped by their other brother. Suddenly, an older woman yells at them and brings Noel to her home. However, the older woman Nal's grandmother is angry when she finds out that Noel is pregnant and sends her away to the city with her. Uncle Noel gives birth to a baby boy, who is given a tattoo on his foot before being taken to an orphanage. Noel promises to find him one day. Present day, Jean arrives at Adiz, and she goes to the university to find a person named a CD, but she can't help her. So Jean goes to the university's office and asks about her mother to the receptionist. The receptionist tells her that she can't help as she wasn't even born when Jan's mother was at the university, but the receptionist directs Jean to someone who can identify the location of her mother as Kafr Rayat, a prison in the south. Jean's mother, Nal, worked in the campus newspaper and was fighting for the rights of Muslims one day while working with her fellow journalists. Some nationalists closed the university campus. Noel and her family were worried about CLES and violence, so they decided to move to the mountains until the situation calmed down. However, Noel was determined to find her son, who was taken away from her when he was born. She visited her old house in the destroyed village and looked for a clue about her son. Then, she even took a bus to search for him, but the bus was attacked by some people who murdered all the passengers except for Noel. We find Jean on a bus traveling south, passing by an old prison where her mother grew up. She calls her brother Simon, expressing her longing for his presence. When she meets a group of women, initially they seem friendly, but their attitude changes when they learn she's looking for Noel. They speak in a language Jean doesn't understand, criticizing her mother and refusing to help. They make it clear she's not welcome and should leave. Meanwhile, Nal in a war-torn city, after an explosion leaves her injured, she joins a militia and is tasked with assassinating a leader. She infiltrates his household as a French teacher for his son. Things seem to be going smoothly until she receives the order to kill him. She carries out the mission and kills the leader, but is arrested and tortured, enduring years of hardship in prison. Back in the present, Jean visits the now empty prison where her mother was held. She meets a former guard who remembers Noel as the singing prisoner who resisted their attempts to break her. He reveals that Noel eventually stopped singing after enduring horrific abuse from a torture specialist. Jean learns that her mother gave birth in prison and sets out to find her lost sibling, overwhelmed with emotion. Jean calls Simon, sharing everything she's discovered and pleading for his support in their quest. We witness a harrowing scene as Noah is handcuffed and hooded. then led to a cell where she hears another woman scream. Neil, in a neighboring cell, starts singing to drown out the cries. The intensity of the screams matches the pitch of Noel's song. Meanwhile, Simon meets with a lawyer. John LaBelle, seeking answers about his missing brother Leo, advises him to delve into their mother Nael's past to uncover the truth. Back in prison, Noel herself is subjected to the same treatment, but she defiantly sings through the ordeal. Later, she is raped and left alone, singing despite the agony. As she realizes she's pregnant, she desperately tries to induce a miscarriage but ends up restrained in her cell. When W goes into labor, she's taken to a delivery room, where a nurse, Miss Micah, helps her deliver twins. The nurse takes the twin babies out of prison, and later Noel is released from prison in Dirish. Simon and Leo meet with another lawyer, Madad, to aid in their search. Together with Jean, they track down Miss Micah, now a patient in a hospital. She tearfully confirms their relationship to Noel and reveals that she handed over the twins to their mother upon her release. This shocks Jean and Simon, who had believed their missing brother was born in prison, unaware that they were the ones born there in a tense moment amidst the rubble of war. For children hurry, trying to evade danger. Their escape is interrupted when one of them is shot by none other than Nael's son, recognizable by distinct marks on his foot. Madad shares a lead with the twins, informing them that their brother Nihad was likely at an orphanage in Kafirkut before it was destroyed in the conflict. Unfortunately, finding records beyond that point seems futile. Madad suggests seeking information from a warlord named Wallet, Shamsdeen in Dessa. Simon and Leo embark on this journey, meeting the warlord, who initially denies knowledge of Nihad or Noel. Meanwhile, Noel, now released from prison, accepts an offer to leave the country with her children for America. Simon, in pursuit of answers, is blindfolded and taken to meet someone regarding his inquiries. To his surprise, it's the real warlord's Wallet. Cham Kadeen, who reveals Nad's faith. Nihad, a skilled soldier, eventually sought out his mother but was captured by a man named Abu Tariq. After killing several opponents next, we see Jean discover Simon in shock, who reveals the unsettling truth their brother is also their father in the following scene. Jean returns to the pool where she and Null used to swim together. As they swim, Null notices something, a tattoo of 3 dots on the back of someone's foot. She gets out of the pool to take a closer look, only to realize that the person is the man who assaulted her in prison, though visibly aged. Null is stunned while the man, oblivious to her recognition, offers assistance. Null silently walks past him, deeply affected. Later, they receive information from the warlord that Nihad might be living in Canada under Nahad Harani. John and Simon track down Nahad and deliver letters to him. After reading them, Nahad is overwhelmed with regret for his actions in LaBelle's office. They receive another letter from their mother, which is deeply emotional and brings them both to tears. Eventually, Nahad stands before a new gravestone bearing Nael's name, reflecting on the impact of his past choices. That's the end movie. Subscribe and like for more videos like this. See you in the next video.
واصل إكمال الصغار